All right, good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm pleased to introduce April Johnson. She's the demi chef at Myers Park Country Club in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she is accompanied by her executive chef, I believe, Scott Craig. And they're going to demo a couple of dishes for us and then go through kind of their culinary journey and answer any questions that you might have. So if you have questions, I'd like you to stay on mute, classes. If you have questions, just pop them into the chat and I will address those at the end. And then if you have any other things that pop into your head, just throw them in that chat box and we'll take care of them at that time. And to that, we will let them get cooking. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you today. Sienna, am I coming through okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect, great. So yeah, my name is Scott Craig. I'm the executive chef here at Myers Park Country Club. What we're going to do today is we're going to prepare some jumbo lump crab cakes. And so, you know, part of my journey, we'll talk about it later. I've had the good fortune of becoming a world certified master chef. I was on the 2020 U.S. Culinary Olympic team. As was mentioned, we competed in Germany. I've also competed in London and Luxembourg. And so, but you know, one of my favorite things to prepare throughout that journey is a crab cake. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, you know, when you look at, so this is blue swimming crab. We use blue swimming crab because of its flavor, because of its moisture content, because of the size of the jumbo lumps. But when you look at this, you know, we take it for granted when we pop it open. Each crab only has 2 jumbo lumps. That's it. And so when you eat a crab cake, if it's jumbo lump crab, I mean, it takes a lot, you know, to prepare that product. The rest of it is, you know, we have some back fin here, but it's really sweet. It's really wonderful, and it really has to be prepared correctly. I've had some terrible crab cakes that tasted more, you know, kind of like cat food. You know, they're either too bready, or there's way too much jumbo lump, or there's too much moisture. And so, you know, along the way, I spent a lot of time in Baltimore and Washington, D.C., and you really have to get your crab cake right if you're gonna stay in Baltimore and cook for Marylanders. And so, what I have here is back fin crab meat, the jumbo lump crab meat. I have what's known as crab mayo, and so April will be able to provide a recipe for you for that. Mayonnaise, Old Bay, lemon juice, eggs, and a few other really tasty things. This is really important. This is finely ground cracker meal, and so if you use something larger, if you kind of make your own or whatever, it has to be ultra dry and ultra fine. The goal is to absorb as much moisture as possible using as little of this as possible. And that's how you keep from making a really bready crab cake. Also have dried parsley. Typically we'll use fresh herbs, fresh parsley. In this case we don't. So if I used fresh parsley, put that to my crab cake, by the time you go through this process, it's exposed to the acid that's in the crab mayo. It's exposed to the heat in the saute pan. Sets for a couple seconds. Maybe I'll squeeze some lemon over it. What I'll be left with is a really dulled out kind of army brown parsley. We don't want that. We want it to be nice and bright and vivid. And so we use dried parsley because it's just that, it's dry. I want the product to rehydrate throughout this process and be in its optimal state by the time it reaches our guest. The next thing I'll have is water. And so when you're preparing a crab cake, what you're trying to do is kind of jealously guard the moisture content. You want it to be really nice and moist so it's super delicious when it comes out. And you know, I don't want it to stick to my hands. And also, I don't want any of the product to be left on my hands. I want it to stay in the product. So just as if I were making sushi with a sticky rice or short grain rice, I'm going to go ahead and wet my hands. So when I'm forming the crab cake, it's going to retain its moisture. And actually, I'm hopefully adding moisture to it. we have a nice large pan right here. This is a 2-inch deep hotel pan. If we're making lots of crab cakes, when I worked in Maryland, sometimes we'd make 20,000 at a time for large events like the 4th of July. We'd use something obviously much, much larger. But the key is I want this to be shallow and I want it to be really wide. Because as you'll see in a few minutes, I want to be able to get my hands under it and turn it. I'm not trying to mash it. So this is really more of a technique than a recipe. You can apply this technique to really whatever flavor profiles that you want. I do different things with it. Sometimes instead of using the finely ground cracker meal, I'll dehydrate fresh corn in the summer, turn that into a powder and use that as the binder. It gives me a gluten-free product that's crazy sweet, really flavorful. But the important thing is kind of the technique that we're going to go through. So generally I'll use half and half back fin and jumbo lump. So I want kind of all has the same flavor, but a lot of the times a crab cake is judged for its texture, especially by folks who know good crab cakes or maybe grew up with crab cakes if they're from the mid-Atlantic region. So I've got all of my back fin here, and now I'm adding the same amount of jumbo lump crab. So, why do we use the back fin? Jumbo lump is $22 a pound. Back fin is $12 a pound. And so I want a product that's going to be delicious. I want readily identifiable jumbo lumps in it, so it's luxurious and has a really appealing texture. But at the same time, I want to remain profitable. And so I'm going to cut that with back fin. Also, the back fin, because of its texture, is going to help hold it together. If I went with straight jumbo lump, unless I broke these, it wouldn't hold together. So when you're an executive chef and you're making these big purchases, if I'm making 20,000 crab cakes, I've probably spent, over $100,000 on product. You want to make sure your guys are not breaking these. You want them to remain intact. And so what I'll do next, and there's no recipe for this, again, it's a technique. I'll use the cracker meal. And the way I describe it is, it should look like a freshly fallen snow. You guys have any snow right now in South Dakota? Oh, nice. So you know what this looks like. And so you'll always use a varying amount. It'll never be the same. And that's because different containers of crab meat will have different moisture contents. There's kind of no way around it. So even if you have a recipe, it might be a good starting point, but really you have to use your judgment. What you won't see me do is use salt and pepper in this because I've already seasoned my crab mayonnaise. And so now what I'll do, I've already dusted this. I'm going to go ahead and add my dried parsley to it as well. What I'm looking for, so I'm going to go ahead and fold it. And now what I'm looking for is a maximum of 3 folds. That's it. If you would, April, let's go ahead and get a saute pan with some oil on a medium high. And so that's 1 turn. And so what I'm doing is I'm disseminating the cracker meal and the dried parsley. That's nice. That's distributed evenly. So next, I'll go ahead and add crab mayo. Usually I'll just put it right down the middle and kind of fold into it. Better to use not enough than too much. If you use too much, then you're going to add more breading, which is antithetical to what we're trying to achieve with the product. So this looks like, based on experience, this looks like the right amount. I'll go ahead and wet my hands a little bit. And as you see, I'm just letting it fall through my fingers. I'm not mashing it. And I'm just going to knead it to the point where it comes together. And then we're finished. So that's it, right there. And so it almost looks like crab salad. So now what I'm going to do, generally, I find like the optimal weight for a crab cake is about 3 to 4 ounces. Anything more than that, the outside tends to get a little overcooked. But general rule for me is I want it to be about the size of a baseball. And so now, with wet hands, what I'm not doing is breaking it. I'm just moving it back and forth, kind of letting gravity bring it together. And I want to get the air out of it as well, because as we heat it up, the air is going to expand and that can crack it. And so now I've got a pretty awesome crab cake. And so this is right around 4 ounces. If we're preparing this Maryland style, we want it to be the shape of a baseball. We want it to be spherical. And then we can do one of two things. We can either broil it or fry it. If we want to kind of stay true to the technique that they use in Maryland, then we'd serve that on a cracker with maybe remoulade and some lemon. What we're going to do here, our members tend to enjoy this, and honestly, I prefer it. We're going to saute this. And so I'm just going to flatten it a little bit more than I would if I were cooking this in Baltimore or at Chevy Chase Club. Okay, and so there's no air in there. The egg is going to coagulate, and it's going to help pull all this together, keep it nice and firm, but it should be super, super flavorful and moist. And we haven't broken any of the lumps. And so now we'll go over to our pan. One thing that's important to note as well is, as I'm preparing this, or anytime I'm working with a protein, I have ice under this pan. Bacterial growth is always about a time temperature curve, and so the more that I can do at the very beginning of this process to control that bacterial growth, the longer my product will last, and the less of a chance I have of having someone get sick when they eat here. That's really important for us. We have a lot of kids that eat here. We have a lot of older folks that eat here, especially right now with COVID. Some folks might have compromised immune systems. And so it's massively important that we wear gloves when handling ready-to-eat products, and we wash our hands extremely well, and that we always ice our proteins. Let's go ahead and bring that over here. Got a plate here. Got a remoulade here. So I like sauce. I put my gloves on, so I'm handling ready to eat. April did a really great job with this crab cake. It's nice and golden brown. That Maillard effect on the outside, browning the protein. It's going to give it a really wonderful flavor. And the nice thing is the parsley is nice and green and bright. It's really moist. It has a nice weight. I'm just going to put that on here so I have plenty of sauce. I've got some microgreens here that are grown down the road at Lucky Leaf Gardens. We'll just put those on top. And then, if I were preparing this, generally what I enjoy is maybe like a pickled vegetable slaw or something like that. Some peppers and onions, even broccoli, corn. I'll use like half and half dark brown sugar, apple cider vinegar to pickle that. And that's really amazing as well. But that's it. That's our jumbo lump crab cake. It's about a 4-ounce portion. We'll serve this for about $27 for a single. It goes up to maybe like $40 for a double, I believe. That's really the jumbo lump that's driving the cost there. And that's it. April will have those recipes for you, and y'all enjoy. Let us know if you have any questions. I'll let April jump in.
Thank you very much. That looks fabulous. I wish we could taste it. You send them in the mail. Do you, anybody that's listening, Ms. Gerlach, does anybody have any questions at this point?
Okay, so I'll just keep going. So one of the things that has been really popular with the members lately is there's been a growing interest in having vegan options. And so that's something that I kind of really took on as a personal project, was just being able to expand my knowledge of vegan cooking, since that's something so many members have requested and it's a trend right now. So the dish that I'm going to show you is a portobello mushroom stuffed with Beyond Meat stuffing, served with wild rice, Brussels sprouts, braised red cabbage, and a red wine reduction. So the first thing for this dish is your portobello mushroom and making sure that it gets clean. So to do that, you take a spoon and you get this middle part right here, the gills. You just scrape these out with a spoon into the garbage. And then the other thing with the portobello mushroom is peeling the outside skin, just for presentation looks and just to kind of help in case there's any dirt that's still on the mushroom. And so you'll just peel this till it's all the way gone. And then what we have is, Sienna has all these recipes, is we take the mushroom and we put it in a marinade that's white wine vinegar, roasted garlic oil, which is something that we make here at the club and we use it a lot to top our pizzas, and we'll use it to make vinaigrette sometimes. It's just taking regular canola oil, throwing some garlic cloves in there and roasting it in the oven until all that garlic flavor gets infused into the oil. I have some rosemary, oregano, parsley in here, and then a little bit of salt. And so what we do is we cryovac these. We put them in a bag and then we vacuum seal it, so that way it really closes all the air out, really gets all the flavor in here of the marinade. And so we'll always do this ahead of time for service. And then the next thing that we'll do is I'll show you how to make the Beyond Meat stuffing. And so for this, it's all about reading the labels of things. Like I have this stuffing mix right here. This is all vegan. And then I also have 2 slices of white bread. It's all about reading the labels because not every brand of white bread is vegan. So it's just making sure that there's no honey, no eggs, and everything like that. Adding all that in. And then I also have this mixture of Beyond Beef. I have celery, onions, and mushrooms all sweated off already and chilled. So that goes in here. And then I also have some dried cranberries, just to add some more flavor and color and a little bit of sweetness. And so then what you want to do is mix all of this together just so everything gets incorporated really well. And the other thing about this is making sure that you have a good amount of the mushrooms and the vegetables and that it's not just all bread. So after this is all mixed together pretty well, then we add all of our wet ingredients. I have some vegetable stock. I have some garlic oil. I have lemon juice. And then the other thing that makes this dish really interesting is vegan eggs. So vegan eggs, it's basically a soy powder, and when you go to the grocery store to buy it, you buy it in the dry goods section. And then what you do is, for the amount you need, 1 egg is taking 2 tablespoons of the powder and whisking it together with a half a cup of very cold water. So that's what I have here. So then this goes in. And then of course seasoning it with salt and some white pepper. So then this all gets mixed together just so that way all the breadcrumbs and everything, it's soaked, it's covered, it'll bind together. And so it's just mixing it and folding it with your hands just until it gets all moist, all mixed together. And then here, I'm gonna heat up a pan really quick so I can show you the rest of this dish. But yeah, so this is what the Beyond stuffing looks like. You can see, you honestly can't really tell when you eat this that it's vegan, that there's Beyond Meat in here, because there's so much flavor with the garlic oil, lemon juice, the vegetables, the herbs, which makes it really awesome. It's just a very good way to incorporate something that people normally don't eat in a vegan dish. So that's all mixed. And then after this, what you do is place the stuffing on the mushroom. We do about a 4-ounce portion of stuffing. I have one already baked off so you can see kind of what it looks like. It's really nice. It gets a nice crust on top. It bakes in a 420-degree oven for about 8 to 10 minutes until it's golden brown on top and it's hot in the center. And so then I'm gonna be sauteing the sides for this dish really quick. What it is you take the Brussels sprouts after your pan is heated and you sear those. We have braised red cabbage that I mix in to add a little bit more acidity and color, and then the wild rice, and you let that all cook together, and then that serves as the base for this dish. So I'm gonna do that really quick. And so you always want to put the Brussels sprouts in first. Those take the longest to caramelize, and you want to get a really good sear on them because it gives them more flavor and a better texture. And so then for plating this is the way that we plate this in the restaurant. What we do is we make a Brussels sprout puree. And so when you quarter Brussels sprouts sometimes, some of the outer leaves, they tend to fall off, and most people just throw them in the trash and get rid of them. But a way that I utilize them to kind of help with food costs and everything is making a Brussels sprout puree. So what I'll do is I'll blanch the Brussels sprout leaves and then chop them, put them in the blender with some more of that roasted garlic oil I talked about earlier, some fresh lime juice and some avocado just to kind of help make it smoother of a consistency for a puree. And then I'll add a little bit of spinach leaves too, fresh spinach, just to help keep that green color. So once you have the puree made, you'll take a brush and you'll brush it right along the center of the plate to create a nice solid line. And then we're gonna take our wild rice, Brussels sprout, red cabbage mix and add this to the dish. And this goes right in the middle. And whenever I'm building a dish, I always like to think about different components, making a balanced dish. So that's having different colors, it's having acidity, it's having texture, it's having a savory flavor, and making sure that the main components of your dish, that those flavors really stand out. And so then I'll take the Beyond Stuffed mushroom and I'll put this on top of the wild rice mix. So it's sitting in the middle. And then as an extra sauce for this dish and a way to add even more flavor, I have a red wine reduction. And so this is just red wine vinegar, some brown sugar, and then some dried cranberries that I soaked in apple cider, all combined together and reduced until it forms like a syrupy consistency. And so then this goes right over the top of the dish. And then for a garnish, finishing it with some more of the microgreens the chef talked about from Lucky Leaves. So there we have it, our vegan stuffed mushroom with Brussels sprouts, braised red cabbage, and wild rice.
That looks amazing, April.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention that April is also a ProStart alumna. So she has, she was on a national team. When was that? What year was that?
It was 2014, my sophomore year. I did the management and culinary team. We both went to nationals for both categories. And then 2015, I did culinary and management again, and we got third place at state.
Yeah.
Hi to Mrs. Jaquit whenever she watches this, or if she's on right now. She was my ProStart teacher for Sioux Falls CTE, and so I hope she's doing well and everything. I know she's in Brookings now.
She's come a long way, April has, in this program, and we couldn't be more proud to have her represent ProStart for South Dakota. So is there, I know Ms. Gerlach, you're the only one on. Do you or your students have any questions for either April or, oh, somebody's raising their hand, I see it. Feel free to unmute.
Okay, let me go ask Estella what she has. Estella, what do you have for a question? Okay, so Estella's question was, how much do they charge for the food? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, how much do you charge for your food,
What
typically?
So we charge, so our goal is to be around 37% food cost. And so we have to use a menu mix. We get a report at the end of every month that lets us know what has sold and what the percentage is of those items. So it really varies. You know, there's some items like we have a pretzel on the menu downstairs. Big, beautiful pretzel with mustard and glazed with butter, and it's awesome. That's $12. It only costs about $1 to make. And so we've got about an 11% food cost on that. However, once we get into fine dining and, you know, we want like a nice big chunk of foie gras as an appetizer, we might be at 70% food cost on that, even charging $15 because it's almost $90 a pound. And so, you know, the key is balance. You have to constantly watch your menu mix, understand the percentage at the end of the month, adjust accordingly. We use a program called Clear Sky, and that provides us an alert if a product increases by a certain threshold. And so we don't have, you know, we have 62 pages of inventory, sometimes more, sometimes less. But that lets us know that, you know, okay, the cost of beef is way up, or dairy, or whatever it might be. But it's really an ongoing project, you know, and something that you have to stay on top of. And, you know, I had an old chef, you know, that I used to work for. He told me, you know, if they ever fire me, it's going to be for the numbers. It won't be for the food. And so it's a balance, though. You know, I understand what he was saying. You have to have great food just to get people in the door and drive revenue. And at the same time, you have to be at a price point where you're not driving people away. But I think we've really hurt ourselves in the industry by being too competitive and not charging what we need to charge for. So in the past year, we've changed. We've become far more aggressive. We're charging what we need to charge, not worried about the guy down the street and what they're charging. And it's been good.
Good. Also, I want to say, if you are not on Instagram for Chef Craig, you should check out their Instagram because there's gorgeous milkshakes every week.
Yeah, I just had some dental work done last week, and you know, I'd probably look like an Olympic athlete if not for our pastry chef and the incredible team back there. I'm pretty sure they're subsidized by one or two dentists in Charlotte.
Yeah.
But they do a really wonderful job. We're proud of them.
Good.
Do you guys have other questions? Okay. They were wondering what your Instagram is. What is your Instagram?
Oh, sure. Chef Scott Craig. SCHEF SCOTTCRAIG. And you'll see a lot of April's food on there. And just while I have the chance, I just want to say, you know, we're extraordinarily proud of April and the job that she's done. I worked with her in Washington, D.C. She was recommended to me by a mentor of mine, a master chef, Rudy Speckham. And we had, you know, the profound fortune of bringing her on. She worked with us in D.C., came down to Charlotte, and the work she's doing with vegan is extraordinary. And, you know, there's a lot of these dishes that she puts up that I would take 20 times over a steak. They're so flavorful, so creative. We're really, really proud of her, and she's representing you guys well.
Awesome. Awesome. How many vegan dishes are we going to see at competition for state competition next year? I wonder.
What's that?
I don't know, hopefully it's something more people take advantage of. It's a good way and a good outlet to have creativity, because I've done like a vegan curry, I've done a vegan stuffed sweet potato.
Yeah.
The last one I did was a Vietnamese dish where it was called banh zao, and it was like these crepes with vegetables stuffed in the middle and a vegan nak cham. I mean, there's so many options for it. It's not just, oh, having a salad, cooking some vegetables, and you can really get creative with it.
Absolutely.
That's great. What, I guess I have a question on how do you get into the Olympic competition? How do you get on the team? What kind of process is that for you?
So they, tryouts are actually going right now for 2024, but the way it works, we have one of our guys who's trying out for the team. He's submitted his resume. You get selected from that. There's now a Zoom call. You get selected from that. You prepare a few dishes, send that in, you get selected from that. So they're constantly narrowing down. Then finally have a hot food competition. The ones who pass get on then to the second round of competition. And then you go through the cold food competition. And that's then whittled down from however many down to 6 people. Once you're on the team, you're never really on the team until you step into the kitchen in Germany. April definitely saw this, where we had, about 7 people actually on the national team, but they really, really push you to keep you in performing optimally. And so you don't know really if I'm practicing as an alternate or if I'll be in the kitchen until you get to the event and they say, okay, you're in the kitchen. And so, to get to the point where you make it to the award ceremony and you have the medal, that's pretty much when you're on the team. And it's extraordinarily intense and stressful and all that. And I would recommend it to anybody. 4 years on the team, they say, is worth 10 years in the industry. You're surrounded by extraordinary coaches, extraordinary individuals, cooking the best food in the world, competing against 51 nations who are all bringing their best. And it's just wonderful company to be in. And so do it now while you're young, or wait till after your kids go to college. But it's wonderful. And April did an incredible job as an apprentice for the team. She saw everything, and I look forward to seeing what she accomplishes throughout her career as a result.
So can you guys hear me okay?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
One of the students was wondering, April, if you're actually vegan.
No, I'm not vegan. This is just something I really wanted to get into and really understand, since so many members have been requesting vegan and vegetarian options at the club. I really wanted to be able to give them the best food possible.
Okay. And then a question that I have is, thinking about this whole COVID situation, what kind of changes did you guys have to go through, or new things that you maybe have to come up with through all of this?
Yeah, sure. So March 13th was our last day of having formal dining service. We all shut down once we heard about COVID and how it was happening. And so we had to move into kind of a curbside carryout model. And so we divide the kitchens into pods so that we were all working with the same group of people. And we'd be providing curbside meals for members, which consisted of an appetizer. They had 2 different choices of entrees, 3 sides, and then dessert. And so they'd get the menus emailed out to them, and then they'd order through the club's website the food that they want. And so they really started with just that, but we were able to build it into like cupcake decorating kits. We did pizza nights on a Thursday where people would drive up. We have a wood-fired pizza oven. They get a fresh pizza to take home to their families. Right now we do kind of like a drive-through concept with some of the members who would be normally working banquets, just since there aren't any really large functions happening right now. And we switched out the menus for those and done like Italian night, taco night, Southwest theme.
Yeah, we actually have, I wrote a food and beverage playbook. It's on the website, clubandresortchef.com. I write some for Club and Resort Chef magazine. And so if you do go to that site, you can download it for free. It details, I think it's about 64 pages, our plan from start to finish. We've been fortunate enough to have no transmission whatsoever on campus. We've got about 250 people that work here. And so that's been wonderful. I would say an interesting byproduct of COVID is our reduced costs. Of course, we lost some labor, or we lost some revenue, but we actually finished the year about $350,000 better than budget because we had no overtime, no temp labor, no linen, we're not washing as many dishes. And so, I think this is going to change the industry going forward. We're seeing that we can be profitable. We don't have to kill ourselves. You don't necessarily have to work 14 hours a day, do fine dining. You can make food, put it in a box, send it home. If it's great, they come back. It's a lower cost, lower overhead, which makes you more profitable at the end of the day.
Just a minute. Yes, Estella. Or no, who had it? Sorry, Andrew.
Asking if they're fulfilled with their jobs.
Okay, so the question was, do you guys feel fulfilled with your job? Is it something that you feel good about?
Yeah, at least for me, I love being able to come into work every day, and Chef has done a really good job of keeping everybody engaged with stuff. If there's any projects you want to do, he fully supports you with them. We do a weekly feature competition at the club, and so in our 2 restaurant kitchens, we put up an app and an entree, and then it's a blind judging where Chef and a few of the other club chefs here will do a blind tasting, and then they'll judge everything, and then whoever has the highest score wins the belt for the week. It's just really awesome. Kind of looks like a UFC fighter champion belt. And so they get the belt for the week. And then we partner with this program, this company called Fresh List. And so we'll use one ingredient in each of the specials from different local farms that Fresh List supports. And then you also get like a gift card for shopping at Fresh List to just help keep supporting local business and local farmers.
I would say, to that question, it's very fulfilling for me, but I think what each of you have to ask for yourself is it fulfilling for you? I'm 23 years deep into my career. I'm closer to the end now than I am the beginning, and looking back, there's not much I would change. I was absolutely dead broke for the first 12 years, maybe. And now I'm at a point where we get to travel the world. We make wonderful food. I get to work with incredible people. And, looking back, I wouldn't change a thing because of the diversity of the group that I get to work with, the places I've gotten to travel to, the food I've gotten to enjoy, the joy that I've been able to bring people. But what you have to ask yourself is that fulfilling for you? Like I said, there's easier ways to make money. If you're getting into this for the money, get out right now. But if you get into this because you're passionate, it's in your blood, you love the creative process, you enjoy making people happy. I don't cook for anybody else. I cook for myself. I enjoy the creative process. And so even if someone doesn't enjoy something, that's a note to file, but it doesn't crush me, because I enjoy the process and I'm proud of the product. And so, ask yourself as you move through this, don't wait till you're, 30 like some people do. Am I in it for the right reasons? And if you are, you'll have an extraordinary career that'll be massively fulfilling. If, perhaps you're in this because, for other reasons or whatever, think about it heavily.
And one of the things that was so great about ProStart was it really did give me the opportunity to explore my interest in cooking. Before I took ProStart classes, my only experience was making cookies with my grandma, or helping my mom cook dinner every once in a while. And so then getting to be in the class, see the textbook, and luckily CTE has a live industrial kitchen where we were able to use deep fryers, see what it's really like to be cooking some of those things helped a lot. Competition really helped me too, because it's a lot of hard work to get your team ready to compete. I'm sure all of the teachers and all the students know how much work it goes into testing out your recipes, getting your binders together, running through your management presentation and being ready for those questions. It's hard work, but it's something where if you really enjoy it and you really put your time into it and it pays off for you, it'll definitely set you on the right path to having a successful career in the restaurant industry if that's what you really want.
Yep.
Just a minute. We have a question mark.
What precautions do you guys have for if a customer or an employee gets a foodborne illness?
Yeah,
Did you-
so I guess in about 23 years of doing this, I think we've only had one that I know of, and that was a meatloaf that a sous chef had kept for 14 days instead of actually taking the time to make it again. And so that was, easily remedied. Uh, but the main thing is just, when you see everything in our kitchens, it's labeled and dated with blue tape. If this falls into food, we can easily see it. Just like our Band-Aids, gloves, everything's blue. And so, it's labeling and dating everything. It's creating a culture in which everyone holds themselves accountable. I think that's a big part of it. We have glass chillers on campus. We have 3 glass chillers that we use. Again, it's just actively managing that time temperature curve in the very beginning, so we get the maximum life out of product with the minimal risk. Every single one of our people in the back of the house, 60 people, even dishwashers, are all ServSafe certified. And so education's a big part of it. When you see someone handling food the wrong way, there's no excuse. They are educated. They know the difference between right and wrong. And so, it's easy then to create accountability. But it's just that. I mean, we have, I think the first step is hiring extraordinary individuals who are invested in this for the right reasons, who care about this. April doesn't need me to stand over her. I meet with April like twice, 2-3 times a week. That's it. April's done this because she loves food. She loves the creative process. She's proud of what she does. When you're taking the time to hire those people in the very beginning, you tell them what the expectation is, you examine the result of those expectations, but really they hold themselves and each other accountable.
What's the favorite food that most people order?
What's the favorite food that most people order there?
Burgers, salmon, salad bar, top 3. And so beyond that, it gets out into all kinds of different things. But typically, the gentlemen will come off the golf course and get a hamburger in the men's lounge. The ladies will get together and talk while the kids play and order a salmon. And then the salad bar has about 72 options on it, including fresh breads and soups and all that. And so the salad bar is an easy go-to while you wait for your food. That's changed since COVID, but those are our top 3.
We were thinking it would all be fun to come and visit.
Come on out.
Yeah, come in the winter when there's a bunch of snow on the ground and you don't really feel like going to school or anything, trekking through the snowdrifts, come on down to Charlotte. There's barely any snow, ever.
Yeah, but anybody that wants to stage, we do have housing on campus. We'll be happy to put you up and, spend a week with us and kind of take in the culture, make as many notes as you can. But even outside of that, I mean, we're here for everybody. We want to leave this industry better than we found it. And so if anybody has any questions or anything, anytime, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always here for you.
What equipment would you say is the most important to have in an at-home kitchen?
In an at-home kitchen? So,
Yeah, I guess for me, whenever I cook for my family at home, it's just making sure that I have just good tools. You can't really make anything really good unless you have a really solid chef's knife and everything like that. For appliances, I guess we have these food processors. It's like a KitchenAid sort of mini food processor, which is good if you aren't trying to make large amounts of food. But
small.
it's a little tiny food processor. But honestly, for the most part, whenever I cook at home for my family, we have an electric stove and everything, and you can still make great food off of that. It's just really all about the technique and everything more than the tools.
And then you have to clean it up too. There's no stewarding team or anything like
No.
that. But for me, it's probably a 12-inch chef's knife and a 10-inch cast iron skillet. That's probably the 2 things that I use more than any other.
Go ahead. Oh. One of my students thought you should come here sometime to cook with us. So
Sure, yeah. Yeah, once we get past COVID and everything kind of loosens up a little bit, yeah, we would love to. I know April would love to get down there. I'll be happy to take it all in and experience some of the really bizarre recipes that April has described for me over Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, my family, they live in Madison, South Dakota, so I come back to visit them sometimes. So I mean, if there's ever a time when I'm going to be in town and somebody wants to reach out, like I'd be more than happy to stop by.
Yeah, we actually had scheduled April to come and judge for the competition, but with COVID, we've had to cancel a couple of years. So 2022, that's what we're planning for. So
Yeah.
we'd love to have you both if you want to come to South Dakota. So
Right.
was there any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
What were the greatest hurdles you've had to overcome in your career?
Oh, well, I guess for me, I'm my hardest critic. And so for me, it's been getting over that self-doubt just because being a female in the industry, there are some people who don't necessarily think that female should be in a professional kitchen. That's been a little bit of a hurdle. But then also too, yeah, it's just me being my own critic. It's really believing in yourself and not giving up when things are hard. And something that Chef Scott's been really good about teaching us is keeping outside of your comfort zone. Like that's the only way that you're gonna learn and grow. And so it's finding new ways to challenge yourself and just to constantly keep growing and pushing to stay relevant and to still have like what you guys were asking earlier, that drive and desire to want to come in and work and cook every day.
I think for me it was, so I grew up in Southern Virginia, in a very rural area. You know, education wasn't that great. Went off to college, and from there I went to Baltimore. And I think it was kind of the stigma when I was in Baltimore of being a hillbilly or, you know, being from the country and not quite as sophisticated as the rest of the people who had gone to culinary school. I didn't actually go to culinary school, I apprenticed. And so, you know, in the beginning, it was that. It was overcoming that stigma and just working, getting in earlier, staying later, and working harder than the people around me to rise past them. Another part of it that continues to be a challenge is just sacrifice. It's, you know, I would say I sacrificed most of my 20s and part of my 30s, relationships and events and all of these things, you know, to get where you want to be, whatever success looks like for you, you know, you define that and figure out what it takes to get there. But it continues to be challenging. Can I make it to my kid's baseball game? Or do I need to be here for this wedding? All of those things. But yeah, you have to find that balance.
I don't think we have any more questions here, but this was awesome, you guys.
Great.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah. Great job, April. It's a pleasure to be with you all. If y'all ever need anything, we're easy to find.
Yeah.
Please reach out.
And
Perfect.
Sienna has contact info. I emailed Sienna all the recipes from what we demoed today, and she's gonna push those out to all of you teachers so that your students can have them.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you guys. Thank you for taking the time today. This was the first time we've done this for our schools, and in the light of COVID, hopefully we won't have to do it much more, but anytime you're willing to show us something in the kitchen, just feel free to let me know. Thank you guys. Thank you, Mitchell, for signing on, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.